You ever walk into a room or pick up a new phone and just feel good? You might not even know why. Well, it probably has less to do with the color and more to do with a silent war happening right in front of your eyes. It's the battle between sharp angles and soft curves. Let's get into it. Okay, so right away, our brains are making these lightning-fast judgments. We look at sharp, angular shapes, and subconsciously we think threat, aggression, stay alert. But then we see curves, and it's the complete opposite: safety, softness, something you can approach. It's this deep instinctual split, and our brain makes the call before we're even aware of it. So, yeah, that's the real question, right? Why? How can a simple shape trigger such a strong, gut-level feeling? Is it just something we've learned over time, or is there something, way deeper going on, something baked right into our DNA? To figure that out, we have to rewind way back. This isn't really about modern design trends. It's all about ancient survival. We're going to look at the primal, almost animalistic response our brains have to simple shapes. See, your brain's number one job, above all else, is to keep you alive. And for our ancestors, sharp points out in the wild were almost always bad news. They meant danger, fangs, thorns, sharp rocks you could get hurt on. So the brain created this amazing shortcut: sharp angle equals threat. And that immediately triggers a feeling of alertness, maybe even a little bit of aggression.
Curves, though, totally different story. They're way easier for our brains to handle. Because they don't have those threatening points, our minds process them with what psychologists call greater cognitive fluency, which is really just a fancy way of saying they're super easy to look at. They don't ring any alarm bells. Instead, they just signal safety and calm.
Now, if you're thinking, okay, but maybe that's just a Western thing, let me introduce you to the incredible Kiki/Booba effect. This is a classic experiment that proves, pretty conclusively, that our reaction to shapes is basically universal. It shows there's a real, concrete link between a shape and the feeling it gives us. So, have a look at these two shapes. I'm going to give you two made-up names. One is Kiki, and the other is Booba. Go ahead. Which one is which? I'm willing to bet you said the spiky one is Kiki, and the round, blobby one is Booba. And you'd be right, or at least you'd agree with about 95% of people across the globe. That sharp key sound just feels spiky, right? And the soft buh in Booba feels round. It's an amazing demonstration of how deep this shape-to-feeling connection really is. So, we've got the psychology down, but can we actually see this happening in the brain? Well, yeah, we can. Now we're going to get into the hard science that connects our love of curves to something really fundamental: our primal connection to the natural world. So, welcome to this really cool field called neuroaesthetics. Scientists here use powerful tools like fMRI scanners to literally watch your brain react to things it sees. It lets them map our emotional responses to art, to design, to shapes, all in real time. This isn't just theory anymore. We can actually see it happening. And what they found is just wild. When they show people images of curved objects, one specific part of the brain consistently lights up like a Christmas tree: the anterior cingulate cortex, or ACC. This isn't just any old part of the brain. It's a major hub for emotion. It's basically your brain's way of screaming, "Yes, I like this. This feels right." This shows our preference for curves isn't just a casual choice. It's a hardwired emotional reaction. And this brain activity gives huge support to a really beautiful idea called the biothelia hypothesis. It basically says that we humans have an innate biological need to connect with nature. It's a leftover from our evolutionary past, this deep-seated drive to be surrounded by life. Now, think about nature for a second. What do you see? It's filled with curves. The rolling hills, the curve of a river, the shape of a flower petal, the spiral of a snail shell. The natural world, the world we evolved in for millions of years, is almost completely free of perfect straight lines and sharp 90-degree angles. And this quote just nails it. That feeling of pleasure we get from looking at a curve, that's our brain giving us a little hit of dopamine, a little reward for recognizing a pattern that has always meant safety, resources, and life. It's our brain saying, "Hey, good job, you found a good spot." Okay, so this is all super interesting theory, but it has huge real-world consequences. Let's take a look at how smart designers are deliberately using this science to make things that don't just work well, but feel good. All right, let's get practical. Look at a simple square on a screen. Those sharp 90-degree corners, they're like little stop signs for your eyes. They create friction. But look what happens when you just round those corners. Suddenly, it's smooth.
The curve naturally guides your eye around and back toward the center. It just feels easier to look at because, for your brain, it literally is easier to process.
And now that you know this, you're going to see it absolutely everywhere. This isn't some tiny little trend. It's a core principle. Think about Apple with its perfectly rounded phones and icons, or Google's entire design system. Look at incredible architects like Zaha Hadid, whose buildings look like they're flowing. Even the mouse in your hand or the dashboard of your car, they're all using curves to feel more natural, more comfortable, and more intuitive. So as we start to pull this all together, there's one last really important idea. Knowing about this deep-seated psychology means that using curves isn't just about making things look pretty anymore. It's a powerful strategic tool. And this is the bottom line. If you're designing anything, a website, a product, a building, whatever, the choice between a sharp angle and a soft curve is a huge strategic decision. It's not just a minor detail. It's a choice that directly impacts how people feel and how they'll interact with what you've made. It can build trust, make things easier to use, and create an instant positive connection.
So let's just recap the big picture. Straight lines and sharp angles, they can be good for showing stability and order, but they carry that risk of signaling threat and creating friction. Curves, on the other hand, tap right into that biological love of nature. They feel safe, organic, and pleasant. They lower our mental effort and help build an immediate rapport.
And that leaves us with one last, kind of big question to think about. As our world gets more and more digital, more filled with man-made artificial environments, is our ancient evolutionary need for the soft, organic curves of nature going to become even more important? Maybe it stops being just a preference and becomes a real necessity for our own well-being, something to think about.